Okay, so let's talk about formulas. You know, when someone gives you one that promises to make something really complex suddenly simple? Well, today we're diving into a little four-letter acronym that tried to do just that for how we learn to think. And boy, did it spark a debate. The big question is it a brilliant shortcut, or does it just make things, well, too simplistic?
So we're going to break down this really fierce debate from the world of legal writing. It's all about a tool called IRAC. But what's so fascinating here is what this whole argument tells us about learning any complex skill. Is something like this a desirable tool, or is it a dangerous trap?
Okay, so to really get this debate, we've got to go back to the problem IRAC was supposed to solve in the first place. And it's a challenge that, honestly, every law school has been wrestling with forever.
I mean, think about it for a second. This isn't just about cramming laws into your brain. No, it's about learning a completely new, structured way to think. So, how in the world do you teach that? How do you give a total beginner a map for that kind of mental landscape?
Well, for a lot of people, the answer was IRAC. It's just a simple little mnemonic to guide a student's analysis. You start with the issue, you find the rule, you apply that rule to the facts, and then you reach your conclusion. IRAC. Sounds simple enough, right?
But here's what's so cool. At its core, IRAC is not new. Not at all. It's basically following the same powerful logic of a classical syllogism. You know, you take a big general rule, apply it to one specific case, and bam, you get a conclusion. This kind of thinking, deductive reasoning, it's been around for literally thousands of years. IRAC just gives it a fresh coat of paint for the modern law student.
All right, so let's look at the case for IRAC. Why do people love it? Well, its supporters say this simple structure is absolutely essential for beginners. They see it as that crucial first step you need when you're just trying to find your footing in this incredibly complex, kind of intimidating new world.
Yeah, Joyce Dietrich Kluta puts it perfectly. She says that trying to teach legal analysis without a framework like IRAC, it's like trying to learn to drive when the manual isn't even in your language. It's just chaos. IRAC gives you the rules of the road. It provides that clear path right when you're most likely to get totally lost.
So you can think of it like a set of training wheels, right? It's there to help students get the hang of the basic moves of legal reasoning before they try any of the trickier stuff. It's a foundational building block, you know, a simple, solid piece that lets you build something way more sophisticated later on.
So for the people who are for it, the bottom line is this. IRAC gives you a logical, reliable framework exactly when you need it the most. It's like an anchor in the stormy sea of that first year of law school. It makes sure you don't miss any steps and gives you the confidence to actually tackle the problem head on.
But for every person who loves it, there's someone who hates it. A critic who sees this simple formula not as a solid foundation, but as a cage, a dangerous trap that actually encourages shallow thinking. And the heart of their argument, which Jane Kent Gianfrido lays out really well, is that IRAC's greatest strength, how simple it is also its biggest, most fatal flaw. The idea is that when you try to simplify something that is, by its very nature, complex, you end up stripping away all the nuance and depth that makes for really sophisticated legal thinking in the first place. The big worry here is that students just learn how to fill in the blanks of a formula, instead of really wrestling with the subtleties of the law. Critics say they see students just trying to cram these complex, messy ideas into these neat little pigeonholes. And that just fragments their thinking and makes them totally miss the bigger picture.
And this slide, this really gets to the core of the conflict, doesn't it? It's a battle of metaphors. Is IRAC a helpful guide, or is it a harmful crutch? Is it a solid building block, or just a bunch of restrictive pigeonholes? Are they training wheels that help you get going, or are they formalistic handcuffs that just hold you back?
So what happened? Well, this fierce debate didn't really have a clear winner. Instead, what it did was cause this explosion of creativity. You had educators everywhere trying to fix IRAC's flaws, mostly by just adding more letters to the acronym. And this led to what a lot of people started calling the alphabet soup of legal analysis. Just this dizzying list of new acronyms, and each one was just a little tweak on the original. Suddenly you had CRAC, TRAC, IRAC-SAC. You even got IRAPAC, which adds extra steps for alternative analysis and for policy. Yeah, it gets complicated really fast.
Let's just zoom in on one of these to see how it works. Okay, so take a variation called IGPAC. It splits the R, the rule section, into two different parts. You have the general rule, and then you have the precedent. Now, this change was made for a very specific reason. It was a direct answer to that criticism that students would just state a rule without ever explaining, where it came from or how it was used in other cases.
And this constant evolution, it's actually pretty brilliant.
because it points to the conclusion that a lot of people in the field finally reached. It turns out it's not really about which acronym you use, it's about how you use it.
The consensus that started to emerge, and you can see it right here in this quote from Charles Caleros, is that the specific letters just don't matter as much as the mindset. The real goal isn't to blindly follow a formula. No, it's to use it as a flexible tool to get to what you're really trying to do, which is communicate clearly.
So, when it all comes down to it, it's this. These formulas aren't supposed to be formulistic handcuffs. They're meant to be a flexible guide, something you can adapt or even just toss aside when the situation calls for it. It's a tool, not a rule. And the real skill is knowing when to use that tool and when it's time to reach for something else in the toolbox.
And that leaves us with one last big thought, one that goes way beyond the world of law. I mean, think about it. In any field, science, business, even art, we use formulas and frameworks to help us learn. But at what point does a useful shortcut stop being a helpful guide and start becoming something that actually limits our thinking? That right there is the real question.